My daughter-in-law mocked my cheap black funeral dress in front of everyone, calling me classless. She didn't know it cost $80,000. I founded the brand she worked for. Her termination was already signed. I stood by Ethan's coffin, and the whole world around me blurred like watercolor paint in the rain. The black dress fit my body like a second skin. Simple, elegant, without a single unnecessary detail. Just the way Ethan liked to see me. "Emmy, you're most beautiful when you're not trying to be beautiful," he used to say. And now, when he is gone, I stand here, trying to hold back my tears, and behind me, I hear a familiar, caustic voice. My God, look at her. She came to her own husband's funeral in some second-hand rag. Martha didn't even try to lower her voice. My future daughter-in-law stood among Ethan's relatives, holding a glass of wine. Yes, she was drinking wine at a funeral, and ostentatiously looking me up and down. "Mark, does your mother even understand what appropriate clothing is? This is a funeral, not a sale at Walmart." I slowly turned around. Martha was wearing a black Chanel suit. I recognized the cut immediately. Last year's collection, about $5,000. Her parents, owners of a chain of car dealerships, obviously spared no expense on their daughter. My son Mark was standing next to her, his face red with embarrassment. "Martha, stop it," he hissed, grabbing her by the elbow. "Stop what? I'm just telling the truth. Your father deserves respect, and she came dressed like some kind of cleaning lady. She didn't even bother to hem it. See how long it is? And this awful fabric, it's pure synthetic." Synthetic? I almost laughed. It was the highest quality natural silk, hand-woven in Kyoto. I bought the dress 3 days ago at a boutique on Madison Avenue, $80,000. Not because I wanted to prove something, but because it was the last collection Ethan and I worked on together before he was diagnosed. He sketched this dress on a napkin in the hospital while undergoing his first round of chemotherapy. "Enough," I finally said, and my words echoed through the funeral hall like a gunshot. Everyone fell silent. "Martha, if you're done with your fashion review, perhaps you'll allow me to say goodbye to my husband." She wanted to say something, but Ethan's aunt, 70-year-old Dorothy, suddenly intervened. "Young lady, do you even understand where you are? This is a funeral, not a fashion show. Emmy lost the husband she lived with for 30 years. Martha smiled condescendingly. "I'm just concerned about the family's reputation. What will people think? The Walls family must always look presentable. And if Mark marries me, his mother must also meet the standards." People. I looked around. Ethan's colleagues from the publishing house where he worked as an editor. Our neighbors from Brooklyn. A few of my colleagues from Meridian. They knew me as Emma Ross, a modest designer who worked on the 3rd floor. None of them had any idea that I owned 40% of the company, that my pseudonym, M. Rowland, was known throughout the world of high fashion. A flashback hit me suddenly. 3 days ago, a boutique on Madison Avenue. I stood in front of the mirror while the saleswoman, a young girl with perfect hair, bustled around me. "Mrs. Foster, this dress was made just for you. Mr. Rowland will be delighted." She didn't know that Mr. Rowland was me, that M was short for Emmy, that I had designed this dress thinking about the day I would have to say goodbye to Ethan. He had known about his diagnosis for a year, rectal cancer, stage 4. The last 2 months in hospice had been hell. Martha had visited twice, and both times complained about the smell of the hospital and the uncomfortable chairs. "You know, this is M. Rowland's last work," the saleswoman continued. "They say she created this collection inspired by some personal tragedy. Each dress is like a farewell letter." I touched the fabric. The soft silk slipped between my fingers, reminding me of Ethan's touch. The last morning he could still speak, he asked me to wear something nice to his funeral, but not too nice, he added with the smile that made me fall in love with him 30 years ago. "Just be yourself, Em." "Mom?" Mark touched my shoulder, pulling me out of my memories. "Sorry about Martha. She's just nervous. The wedding is in 6 months, all the preparations. She's right. I don't look good. I smiled wearily at my son. He looks so much like Ethan. The same brown eyes, the same wavy hair. 26 years old, a French and Italian translator, just back from another business trip to Paris. He met Martha 3 months ago at a party. Love at first sight, he said. Mom, you look great. Dad would be proud. I wanted to respond, but Martha interrupted again. Mark, don't lie to your mother. Better help her find a stylist. I can recommend mine. He works wonders even with hopeless cases. Martha. Mark raised his voice, which was extremely rare. This is my father's funeral. That's why I'm worried. Look, everyone is taking pictures. It will end up on social media. What will my parents say? They're already not thrilled that you're from a simple family. A simple family. If only she knew. 2 commercial properties in Manhattan that I rent out for $15,000 a month each. An investment portfolio worth $3 million. 40% of the shares in Meridian Fashion House, a company with an annual turnover of $100 million. The ceremony continued. The priest spoke of eternal life, of Ethan now being in a better world. I thought about how he held my hand last night, how he whispered, Emmy, promise me you'll live your life to the fullest. Don't hide behind pseudonyms anymore. You've been playing the role of the shy mouse for too long. Martha continued whispering to someone behind me. I heard snippets. Poor family. She couldn't even dress properly for the funeral. It's good that Mark has me. After the wedding, she'll have to be retrained. When it was my turn to say goodbye, I approached the coffin and placed my hand on the cold glass. Ethan looked peaceful, as if he were just sleeping. I leaned closer and whispered, I won't take it anymore, my love. I promise. After the ceremony, everyone began to disperse for the memorial dinner. Martha had already taken several selfies in front of the flower arrangements, for Instagram, of course. Martha, I hope you enjoyed your performance, I said as I approached her. She raised her eyebrows in surprise. What do you mean? Criticism of my outfit. Very professional for a third-rate seamstress. Her face lengthened. Did Mark tell you? I work at Meridian, Martha, on the 3rd floor in the design department. We see each other every day, but you never pay attention to people you consider inferior to yourself. She turned pale, then reddened. You didn't tell me on purpose. That's sneaky. You never asked me what I do for a living. At that dinner, remember, you talked about yourself the whole time. Mark arrived just in time. What's going on? Your mother works for my company. She deliberately hid it. You never asked, he shrugged. And what difference does it make? Mom's a designer, you're a seamstress. Normal professions. Normal? Mark, I work at Meridian. It's one of the most prestigious companies. And your mother, she's just some third-rate designer. I smiled. Third-rate. Technically, she was right. My desk was indeed on the 3rd floor. But my office was on the 20th, next to Joan's. I just preferred to work downstairs, among people, among real life. I left them to sort things out and left the funeral hall. It was drizzling outside, the drops gathering on the black silk of my dress and rolling down. Tomorrow is Monday, a work day. Martha Wallace would arrive at work at 9, 15 minutes late as usual. 30 years ago, I stood in a small thrift store on Bedford Avenue, holding a vintage Dior coat in my hands. It cost $40, almost all of my savings at the time. I was a senior at Pratt Institute, studying fashion design and living on a scholarship and part-time waitressing jobs. Nice choice, I heard a man's voice say behind me. I turned around and saw a guy about my age with a stack of old books in his hands. It's a real Dior from 1958. See this seam? It's handmade. How do you know? I asked in surprise. I'm writing a dissertation on the history of fashion. He smiled, and wrinkles appeared at the corners of his brown eyes. Ethan Foster, future doctor of science who will never find a job. Emmy Carlson, future designer who will also never find a job, I replied, and we both laughed. He helped me bargain for the coat for $35 and invited me for coffee. It turned out that we both loved old things, the stories they carried, the craftsmanship put into every stitch. A year later, we got married. A modest wedding at the city hall. I wore a dress I made myself from fabric I bought on sale. I met Joan Mitchell at my first job, in a small atelier in Queens where we sewed custom suits. She was 10 years older than me and had a keen business sense and ambition. I had talent and crazy ideas. One evening, sitting in her tiny kitchen over sketches, we decided to create our own brand. "But there's one condition," I said then. "My name won't be on the labels. I want to work quietly without the attention of the press and social events." "Why?" Joan asked in surprise. "I'm pregnant," I confessed, "and I want my child to have a normal childhood. I don't want the paparazzi chasing us. Besides, Ethan just got a job at a university press. The academic world, they frown upon connections to the fashion world." That's how the Meridian brand and the pseudonym M. Rowland were born. Joan became the face of the company, and I became her shadow. Officially, I was just Emma Ross, one of the designers. We started in a tiny basement workshop where I cut and sewed the first collections myself. Ethan helped out. He wrote the catalog descriptions, did the bookkeeping, and delivered boxes of finished clothes. Our first customers were the owners of small boutiques in Soho. Then came the breakthrough. Barney's ordered a trial batch. I didn't sleep for 3 days finishing the last details. Ethan brought me coffee and sandwiches right to the sewing machine. When the collection was a success, we celebrated with a bottle of cheap champagne on the roof of our building. Mark was born in 1999, when Meridian was starting to take off. I worked until the last day of my pregnancy, and 2 weeks after giving birth, I was already sitting over sketches with my baby in my arms. Ethan got a job as an editor at a publishing house. A stable salary, health insurance, everything a young family needs. We lived modestly. A 2-room apartment in Brooklyn, furniture from IKEA, clothes from thrift stores. People didn't understand. Meridian was already making millions, but I continued to buy milk at a regular supermarket and take Mark to school on the subway. "It's our choice," Ethan would say when our friends were surprised. In fact, we invested all our money in stocks of tech companies that were just starting out, real estate and deposits. I bought 2 commercial properties in Manhattan and rented them out. "For Mark," I told Ethan, "so that he would have choices in life." Mark grew up to be a smart, calm boy. At 6, he was already reading French fairy tales in the original. He had a talent for languages. At 18, he entered Columbia University to study Romance languages. I was proud of him. He never flaunted the money we had and worked as a translator from his second year. He knew about my pseudonym, about our share in Meridian, but he never used it to his advantage. "Why do we hide who you are?" he asked once when he was 16. "Because it's easier to live that way," I replied. "When people know you have money, they only see the money, not the real you." "Like Jeremy's father," he nodded. Jeremy was his classmate, the son of a famous banker. Everyone wants to be friends with him just because of his yacht and his house in the Hamptons. He met Martha 3 months ago at a charity event where he was invited as a translator. He came home beaming, "Mom, I met the girl of my dreams." I was happy for him and got ready to meet her. I set the table with simple home-cooked food, chicken with rosemary, mashed potatoes, a salad of fresh vegetables, and apple pie made from my grandmother's recipe. Martha arrived in a $3,000 dress and carrying a Prada bag. The first thing she said when she walked in was, "Oh, how cute. Well, Mark, you didn't tell me your parents were into minimalism." Throughout dinner, she kept talking about her family. Her father owns Wallace Motors, a chain of 30 car dealerships across the country. Mother, former model, now involved in charity work, organizes lavish fundraising parties. House in Hampton with ocean views, vacation in Monaco every summer, education at Chapin Private School, then Sarah Lawrence College. "Where did you 2 meet?" she asked at one point, looking at Ethan and me. "At a thrift store," Ethan replied honestly. Martha barely suppressed a laugh. "How romantic. Mark said you're both creative people. It's so sweet to live for art instead of money." She didn't even touch her food, just moved the pieces around on her plate. "I'm on a diet," she explained. "The wedding is in 6 months. I have to fit into the dress." "Have you chosen a dress yet?" I tried to keep the conversation going. "Of course. Vera Wang, the latest collection. $30,000, but my father says that nothing is too good for his princess." After she left, Ethan was silent for a long time, then said, "She's using our son." "He's in love," I sighed. "There's nothing we can do about it." Emma, she didn't even look him in the eye all evening. She just looked around our apartment and counted how much everything cost. "Did you see how she photographed our kitchen? She'll probably send it to her friends. Look where my fiancé's parents live." He was right, but I hoped we were wrong. Mark was an adult. He could figure it out for himself. But then Ethan was diagnosed, and everything else took a back seat. Rectal cancer, stage 4, metastasized to the liver. The doctor gave him 3 to 6 months. Ethan lived for 11, fighting to the end. Chemotherapy, radiation therapy, experimental treatment. We tried everything. I took a leave of absence from Meridian, officially to care for my sick husband. Joan covered for me, signing documents by power of attorney. Martha visited Ethan twice during those 11 months. The first time she brought flowers, an expensive arrangement of orchids completely inappropriate for a hospital room. "Ugh, it stinks in here," she said as soon as she crossed the threshold. She sat for 5 minutes staring at her phone the whole time. "Sorry, I have to go. We have a wedding jewelry fitting." The second time she came with Mark, when Ethan was already in hospice care. "Why don't you transfer him to a private clinic?" she asked. "It's awful to die in a place like this." "This is the best hospice in town," Mark replied calmly. "The staff here is wonderful. But look at these walls, this linoleum. Your father deserves better. When my uncle was dying of lung cancer, he was in a private clinic in Switzerland. At least there's a beautiful view from the window there." Ethan, who by then could barely speak, suddenly said clearly, "Marty, go home. Plan the wedding. It's more important." She took it literally. Over the next few weeks, Mark came alone, apologizing for his fiancée. "She's getting ready for the wedding, Mom. There's so much to do. Flowers, music, the menu." The wedding was set for June of the following year. A hall at the Plaza Hotel for 500 people, an orchestra from Los Angeles, a well-known caterer. Martha's parents paid for everything. "We'll give you a car," I promised Mark. "Dad would have wanted it. He saved up the money especially." A week before his death, Ethan asked to be left alone with us. He took my hand in his dry palm. "Emmy, promise me 2 things. First, don't let that girl destroy our son. He can't see who she really is. Second, stop hiding. You're too talented to stay in the shadows all the time. Stop playing the modest mouse." "Ethan, promise me. And one more thing. That black dress you made last year, the one made of Japanese silk, wear it to my funeral. I know you hid it in your closet. It's beautiful, just like you. I promise." He died quietly, in his sleep, holding my hand. It was 3 in the morning, and snow was falling outside the window. Mark was on a business trip to Paris, a last-minute translation assignment at an important UN conference. He only made it to the funeral. Martha flew in with him, complaining the whole time about jet lag and the inconvenience of flying economy class. Mark could have at least bought business class, considering the circumstances, I heard her whisper to her friend on the phone. And now, 3 days later, I'm sitting in our empty apartment, looking at Ethan's photo and thinking about my promise. On the table lies an $80,000 black dress, the same one Martha called a second-hand rag. The irony is that this dress costs more than Martha's annual salary at Meridian. Tomorrow is Monday. I'm going back to work. And Martha Wallace is going to find out who she's messing with. Monday morning was gray and cold. I arrived at the Meridian office at 8:30, half an hour before everyone else. The security guard was surprised to see me. Usually, after such a tragedy, people took longer vacations. But I needed work. I needed to keep my hands and mind busy with something concrete. My desk on the third floor looked the same as I had left it 2 weeks ago. Stacks of fabric, sketches for the new collection, colored pencils in an old coffee cup. My colleagues hadn't arrived yet, and I had time to think. On the 20th floor in the founder's office, documents were waiting for me to sign. But first I wanted to see Martha in her natural environment. At 9:15, yes, late, Martha appeared. She worked on the second floor, in the sewing workshop. I went down there on the pretext of checking samples and stopped by the coffee machine where I could clearly hear her conversation with her colleagues. "Girls, you can't imagine what happened on Saturday." Martha spoke loudly, clearly enjoying the attention. "Mark's father's funeral, and his mother came dressed like that. I was shocked. Some old dress, probably from a thrift store. The length was all wrong. The fabric shone like a cheap knockoff." "Come on," one of the seamstresses replied. "I swear, I told her straight up. It's a funeral. She could have made an effort." And she got all offended. Mark yelled at me afterwards. Can you imagine? But I'm right. His father was a decent man, an editor at a publishing house, and she's sending him off like this. "Is she really a designer here?" asked another girl. "Yeah, she's sitting in the third row. Her name is Emma Ross. I checked. She's in the lowest category, minimum wage. That's why they live in that miserable apartment in Brooklyn. IKEA everywhere, can you imagine? My closet is bigger than their living room." I took a sip of coffee. Bitter, like the truth that Martha would soon learn. "But after the wedding, everything will change," Martha continued. "Mark is a good guy. He just had bad luck with his family. I'll teach him how to live right. My father has already promised him a position in the company. He'll be handling international contracts. With his languages, it's perfect, and we'll gradually wean him off his mother." "Is Emma that bad?" someone asked. "She's not bad. She's just worthless, a gray mouse. She's achieved nothing in life and envies those who can afford nice things. You know, she asked me yesterday how I knew she worked here. Can you imagine she was hiding it? She was probably ashamed that a seamstress earns more than she does." I finished my coffee and went up to the 20th floor. Joan was already in her office looking through the morning reports. "Emmy!" She jumped up from her chair and hugged me. "I wasn't expecting you so early. How are you?" "Fine. Joan, we need to talk about Martha Wallace." Joan rolled her eyes. "What has she done now? Yesterday, Samantha came in crying. Martha stole her sketches again and showed them to the workshop manager as her own. This is the third time in 2 months. She's Mark's daughter-in-law." Joan froze with her coffee cup halfway to her lips. "What, you're Mark? You're kidding." I told her everything, from our first meeting to yesterday's incident at the funeral. Joan listened, her face growing increasingly stern. "So this cheeky little idea thief is mocking you too? I'll throw her out of here with my own hands." "No, everything will be done by the book. Where is her personnel file?" Joan brought the folder. I looked through it. 3 official warnings for tardiness, 2 for intellectual property theft, complaints from colleagues, enough for dismissal under the rules. "You know what's worst?" Joan said. "Last week she applied for a promotion. She wants to become a senior master. She wrote that she has a unique vision and can lead her own line. She attached sketches, all stolen. I recognized your designs from 3 years ago, which you did for the spring collection." "She stole my sketches?" "Not just stole them. She changed them a little and presented them as a revolutionary idea. She even prepared a presentation for investors." I picked up a pen and signed the dismissal order. At the bottom, where it said, "Signature of the Director," I wrote my real name for the first time in a long time. Emmy Carlson Foster, co-founder. "Do you want me to tell her?" Joan asked. "No, let the workshop manager tell her. Standard procedure. And Joan, don't tell her who signed the order. Let her think it was you." Back on the third floor, I tried to focus on my work. The new collection was due in 3 months, and I was stuck on the evening dresses. Ethan always helped me with this. He had an amazing sense of color and could talk for hours about shades of blue or the texture of silk. At 11 o'clock, there was a commotion on the second floor. Martha's screams could be heard even through the closed door. How dare you? You have no right. I'll sue you. My father will destroy your company." 5 minutes later, she stormed out of the building, carrying a cardboard box with her belongings. I watched from the window as she got into a taxi, took out her phone, and began hysterically explaining something to someone. Probably Mark. He called at 3 o'clock. "Mom, what have you done?" His voice was cold, unfamiliar. "What are you talking about?" "Martha was fired because of you." "Mark, I don't have the authority to fire people at Meridian. I'm just a designer." "Don't lie to me. Martha said you admitted yesterday that you work there. You did it on purpose, because of a stupid grudge." "Mark, come home. We need to talk." "I'm busy. I have an urgent translation." "Mark, please." He arrived at 7 in the evening. I made dinner, pasta with tomato sauce, his favorite since childhood. He sat down at the table but didn't touch his food. "Explain," he said curtly. "Martha was fired for systematic violations of labor discipline, 3 warnings for tardiness, theft of intellectual property. She says it's all a setup." "Mark, your fiancé steals other people's sketches and passes them off as her own. This is a serious violation in our industry." "In our industry? Mom, you work on the 3rd floor for minimum wage. What industry is that?" I took a folder out of the closet that I had kept for just such an occasion. Documents proving ownership of Meridian, bank statements, lease agreements. "Read it," I said calmly. Mark took the papers. I could see his face change with each document. Surprise, shock, understanding. You're M. Rowland, the designer whose work is studied in universities?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell Marty?" "Why should I? So she could love you for your mother's money." Mark was silent for a long time, then said, "You were testing her." "No, Mark, I just didn't advertise my status. But your fiancé showed her true colors. She despises people she considers inferior to herself. She steals other people's ideas. She lies. Is that the partner you want?" "She's not like that. It's just, she's used to a different life." "Mark, she ridiculed me at your father's funeral. She called my dress a rag. A dress your father designed, sketching it on a hospital napkin. A dress worth $80,000. $80,000? Mom, are you crazy? It's the last thing we created together with Dad. He asked me to wear it to the funeral, and your fiancé—" "Mark, she doesn't even miss your father. She was happy that now no one would interfere with her re-educating you." Mark got up and walked over to the window. I saw his reflection in the glass. Ethan's face, only younger without the wrinkles from smiling. "I knew," he said suddenly. "What?" "I knew who you were. I always knew. And I deliberately didn't tell Martha I wanted to see what she was really like." I looked at my son in surprise. "Dad warned me before he died," Mark continued. "He said, 'Your fiancée is a test. If she shows her true colors, don't close your eyes.' I did, Mom, because I'm in love. But today, do you know what she said to me when she was fired? That now she'll have to live off my money until she finds a new job. My money. We're not even married yet, and she's already planning to live off me." "Mark, I'm breaking off the engagement," he said firmly. "Dad was right. She's using me. And you know what's worst? She's not even hiding it. Today I said it straight out. I'm investing wisely in our future because her father will give me a high-paying job." We were silent, looking at the evening city outside the window. Finally, Mark hugged me. "I'm sorry, Mom, for everything, for not defending you at the funeral, for letting her hurt you." "Don't apologize. You loved her." "I loved the person she pretended to be, but the real Martha— You know, today she called you an old, worthless sheep who should be sent to a nursing home after our wedding." I smiled. "An old sheep who owns a company worth $100 million. And who created an $80,000 dress to say goodbye to Dad," Mark added. "Mom, will you show it to me? The dress?" I brought the dress and laid it out on the sofa. In the light of the table lamp, the Japanese silk shimmered like the night sky. Mark touched the fabric, ran his finger along the seam. "Dad designed it?" "In the hospital, 2 months before he died. He said he wanted to see me in something beautiful one last time. It's beautiful, Mom, and you looked beautiful in it. Martha is just blind. Mark's phone rang. Martha. He glanced at the screen and rejected the call. I'll go to her tomorrow and get the ring, he said. The wedding is off. Tuesday morning began with a bang on the door. I had just poured myself some coffee when I heard the insistent ringing, followed by a pounding on the door. I looked through the peephole. It was Martha, disheveled, without makeup, holding some papers in her hand. "Open up, you old witch," she shouted. "I know you're home. I saw your window." I opened the door. Martha stormed into the apartment like a hurricane, waving her termination papers. "Are you happy now? You ruined my life over a stupid grudge?" "Martha, I had nothing to do with your termination. I don't have that kind of authority." "You're lying." She threw the papers on the table. "There's a signature here from some Emmy Carlson Foster. That's you. You set me up. You fabricated those warnings." "The warnings were for real violations. You stole other people's sketches, Martha." "I improved them. It's called a creative approach. But how could you understand that when you've spent your whole life copying other people's ideas on the third floor?" I put down my cup and went to the bedroom. Martha followed me, continuing to shout. I took a folder out of the closet, the same one I had shown Mark, plus some additional documents that I kept separately. "Sit down, Martha, and read carefully." I placed the founding documents of Meridian Fashion House in front of her. My name was second after Jones, 40% of the shares. Then there were bank statements from personal accounts, a balance of $3 million. Then, documents for commercial real estate, 2 premises in Manhattan, rent of $15,000 each per month. Martha read, and with each document her face grew paler. Her hands began to tremble. This is impossible. You live in this dump. Wear secondhand clothes. By choice. Now for the most interesting part. I opened my laptop and showed her the page for M. Rowland on the official Meridian website. The photos were carefully edited. Her face in shadow, only her silhouette visible. But the description told the whole truth. Co-founder of the brand, chief designer, owner of 40%. M is short for Emmy. Rowland is my grandmother's maiden name. I've been working under a pseudonym for 25 years. Martha grabbed her phone and started Googling. She found an article in Vogue about the mysterious M. Rowland, whose designs are worn by Beyoncé and Rihanna. An interview in Harper's Bazaar where the journalist tried to uncover the designer's true identity. A photo from Paris Fashion Week. A blurry figure next to Joan. No, this is some kind of mistake. Mark would have told me. Mark knew, but he wanted to make sure you loved him, not the family money. She dropped her phone. It hit the floor. The screen cracked. Martha didn't pay attention. She looked at me like I was a ghost. That dress, at the funeral, did it really cost $80,000? Yes, from M. Rowland's latest collection, the only one. My God, what have I done? I was in front of everyone. Oh my God, there were people from the industry there. They recognized the dress. 3 designers from Meridian were at the funeral. Yes, they recognized it. Martha suddenly fell to her knees in front of me. She grabbed my hand. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know if they were real or fake. "Emmy, Mrs. Foster, I beg you, forgive me. I didn't know. If I had known who you were." "So what? Would you have behaved differently? Pretended to be a nice daughter-in-law?" "No, yes. God, I ruined everything. Please talk to Joan. Give me my job back. I'll be the best employee." I pulled my hand away. "Get up, Martha. This is humiliating." She got up and wiped her tears, and suddenly her face changed. From pleading, it became cunning, calculating. "Mark doesn't know the whole truth, does he? He thinks you're just a successful designer, but he doesn't know how many people you destroyed to build your empire." "What?" I did some research. The previous owner of the workshop where you and Joan started went bankrupt a year after you left and took all the clients. And that designer, Sarah Wilson, whose ideas are very similar to your early work, she accused you of plagiarism, but then suddenly fell silent. How much did you pay her? Martha, you're playing with fire. What are you going to do? Destroy me like the others? But I'm your son's fiancé. Or rather, I was. He came by yesterday to pick up the ring. I didn't give it to him. I said I was pregnant. I froze. What? I'm lying, of course. But he believed me. Sweet, naive Mark. He said he would take responsibility even if we weren't together. Now imagine. I'll go to him and tell him the whole truth about his mother, about the dark spots in Meridian's history, about how you used people and threw them away. Get out of my house. Gladly, but first we'll make a deal. You give me my job back, give me a raise and a bonus for moral damages. Say, $50,000, and I'll forget about everything. Are you blackmailing me? I'm protecting my interests. My wedding is in 5 months. Everything is paid for. My parents spent $200,000. If the wedding doesn't happen, they'll disinherit me. At that moment, my phone rang. Mark. Mom, are you home? I'm at the door. Open up. I looked at Martha. She backed away fearfully to the window. Opening the door, I saw my son holding 2 cups of coffee and a bag of croissants. I brought breakfast. I thought you weren't eating properly. Martha? What are you doing here? Martha rushed towards him. Mark, darling, your mother just confessed some terrible things to me. She's not who she says she is. Mark put the coffee on the table, looked at me, then at Martha. His face was calm, too calm. Martha, you told me yesterday that you were pregnant. Is that true? She hesitated. Well, maybe. I'm not sure yet. I need to see a doctor. That's interesting because I just went to the clinic where you supposedly went yesterday. They don't know you. And at the pharmacy where you supposedly bought the test, they don't know you either. I mixed up the names. And here's another interesting fact. Samantha called me from my mom's work. She apologized for not coming to the funeral, and she accidentally mentioned how Mom helped her with her portfolio 3 years ago, how M. Rowland personally corrected her sketches. Martha turned pale. I knew everything, Martha, Mark continued. From the very beginning. I wanted to give you a chance to show who you really are, and you showed me. At your father's funeral, you humiliated a woman who had just been widowed. Then you tried to manipulate me with a fake pregnancy, and now you're blackmailing my mother. Mark, I love you. No, Martha, you love the idea of a rich man. Go, and leave the ring. Martha took off the ring and threw it on the table, her face contorted with anger. You'll regret this, both of you. I'll tell everyone the truth, that your mother is the owner of Meridian, that she's been lying to everyone all these years. Go ahead, Mark said calmly, but then you'll have to explain why you were fired for stealing intellectual property, and why you tried to blackmail the co-owner of a company worth $100 million. Martha ran out of the apartment, slamming the door so hard that the walls shook. Mark and I were silent for a minute. Then he hugged me. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about my plan, he whispered. Dad asked me to check her out. He said that if she was worthy of our family, he would accept you no matter what. And if not, he'll show his true colors. Did Ethan know? He always knew everything, Mom, and he loved you just the way you were. The mysterious M. Rowland and the simple Emmy Foster at the same time. In the evening, after Mark left, I stood in front of Ethan's portrait. The photo was taken last summer, 6 months before his diagnosis. He was smiling, holding a book on fashion history. I kept my promise, I said to the portrait. I won't take any more humiliation and I won't hide anymore. The phone rang. Joan. Emmy, you won't believe it. Martha Wallace just sent an email to all Meridian employees. She says you're M. Rowland, that we've been deceiving everyone. And? And what? Half of them already knew or guessed. The other half is thrilled to be working with a legend. Sales on the website have increased by 300% in the last hour. Journalists are going crazy. They all want an exclusive interview with the mysterious M. Rowland. I laughed. It was the first time I had laughed sincerely in a long time. You know what, Joan? Let's give them what they want. Organize a press conference for Friday. It's time for the world to find out who M. Rowland is. Are you sure? I glanced at Ethan's portrait. It seemed like he winked at me. Absolutely sure. And Joan, prepare a contract for Samantha. She will be the head designer of the youth line. That sketch Martha stole was brilliant. At night, I went out onto the balcony. The city sparkled with thousands of lights. Somewhere out there, Martha was probably trying to explain to her parents why she had lost both her job and her fiancé. Mark was probably celebrating his freedom with his friends. And here I was, a 54-year-old woman who was finally ready to be herself. Emmy Carlson Foster, M. Rowland, widow, mother, designer, millionaire, all at once without masks or pseudonyms. Thursday, 2 days after the scandal with Martha. Mark sat across from her at Le Bernardin, the same restaurant where they had met. Martha had chosen the place deliberately, hoping for sentimentality. She arrived in a red dress that he had once called stunning, with perfect makeup and hairstyle. "Mark, dear, let's talk calmly," she began, trying to take his hand. He pulled his hand away. "Go ahead." "Your mother deceived us both. She hid who she really was. It's manipulation." "Martha, I've known who my mother was since I was 10. Her face stretched. "What?" "When I was 10, I found documents in my parents' safe. Mom explained everything. Why the pseudonym, why the secrecy. I could have told my friends, bragged, but I didn't. Because I understood that real friends value me for who I am, not my family's money." You knew all along? And you didn't tell me?" "I was waiting for you to ask about my family. Really ask, not just evaluate the furniture and calculate the value of things. You never once asked what my mother did. You just complained about her modesty." Martha blushed. "Was that a test? Were you testing me?" "Yes, and you failed, at every turn." "How dare you? This is disgusting manipulation. You played with me. I gave you a chance to be yourself, and you were. Greedy, condescending, cruel." Martha stood up so abruptly that she knocked over a glass of water. The water spilled onto the white tablecloth. "You'll regret this, Mark Foster. My father will destroy your career. You won't find a job anywhere." "Your father? The same one who asked me last week to translate the documents for the sale of the company to the Japanese? Without an official contract, so as not to pay taxes. I refused, by the way." The waiter brought napkins and began to wipe up the water. Martha grabbed her purse. "The wedding is in 4 months. Everything has been paid for, $200,000. "That's your parents' problem. They insisted on a lavish celebration to impress their partners. I'm pregnant." "No, you're not pregnant. I saw your birth control pills in your purse. By the way, they expired 3 months ago." Martha slapped him across the face. The slap echoed throughout the restaurant. Patrons turned around, some reached for their phones. "I hate you, and your witch of a mother. You'll both burn in hell." She ran out of the restaurant. Mark stayed, ordered coffee, and calmly drank it, ignoring the stares. Then he called me. "Mom, it's over, for good." The next day, Martha's parents came to see me. Richard Wallace was a heavy-set man with a red face, and his wife Patricia was a tall blonde with an excessive amount of Botox. "Mrs. Foster, your son has ruined our daughter's life," Richard began without greeting me. "Sit down, Mr. Wallace. Coffee? Tea?" "We're not here for tea. The wedding is in 4 months. We spent $200,000. "It was your decision to have such a lavish celebration," Patricia interjected. "Martha says you deceived her. You hid your status." "I didn't deceive anyone. I just didn't advertise it. Your daughter was never interested in me as a person." "So you fired her? Out of revenge?" I took out the folder I had prepared in advance, copies of all of Martha's violations, including evidence of theft of sketches. "Your daughter systematically violated labor discipline and stole someone else's intellectual property. That's a crime, by the way." Richard looked through the documents, his face turning even redder. This is slander. These are facts. And if you try to pressure my son or me, I will hand these documents over to the police, plus information about your shady car sales schemes, Mr. Wallace. Are you blackmailing me? I'm protecting my family. Go home, talk to your daughter about her behavior, and forget about us." They left, slamming the door behind them. An hour later, Mark brought the news. Martha had posted on Instagram that she had freed herself from toxic relationships and was starting a new life. The following week, I met with a real estate agent. The house outside the city that Ethan had dreamed of was still for sale. It was small and cozy, with a garden and a view of the lake. Ethan had seen it 3 years ago when we happened to drive by. "This is where I want to grow old," he said at the time. "You'll sketch on the porch, and I'll read and write my memoirs." I bought the house with cash. I sold one of the commercial properties, the one I rented to a dry cleaning chain, $3 million. The realtor was shocked at how quickly the deal went through. The move took a month. Mark helped, carrying boxes and arranging furniture. We moved all of Ethan's belongings, his books, manuscripts, collection of vintage fashion magazines. "It's so peaceful here," Mark said, standing on the porch. "Dad would have loved this place." He did. We came here to look at it a year ago when he could still walk. We sat on this porch for an hour and he planned where he would put his desk. Friday, 3 months later. Presentation of the new Meridian collection. The grand hall at the Museum of Modern Art. 500 guests, buyers, journalists, celebrities. I stood backstage in a simple black dress, not the one from the funeral, but a new one I had made especially for this day. "Ready?" Joan asked. "Yes." The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in the brand's 25-year history, allow me to introduce the co-founder of Meridian Fashion House, the genius behind the name M. Rowland, Emmy Carlson Foster." I walked onto the stage to applause. Camera flashes, shouts of admiration. Mark was sitting in the front row, smiling and applauding. And in the far corner, near the exit, I noticed a familiar face. Martha. She had come as a +1 with some man, probably a new boyfriend. Our eyes met across the room. She froze, holding her champagne glass. I smiled calmly and nodded to her. No malice, no triumph, just a polite acknowledgement of her presence. Then I turned back to the microphone. "Dear friends, today is a special day. Not only because we are presenting a new collection. Today, for the first time, I stand before you as I am. No masks, no pseudonyms. This collection is dedicated to my late husband, Ethan Foster, who taught me to be brave." The speech lasted 20 minutes. I talked about the history of the brand, about my decision to work under a pseudonym, about Ethan and his influence on my work. When I finished, the hall erupted in applause. People stood up and applauded. After the presentation, there was a reception. Martha tried to approach, but security did not let her through. She was not on the guest list. I saw her arguing with the security guard, then turning around and leaving. Her companion, an elderly man in an expensive suit, said something to her, and she waved him away. "Was that Martha?" Mark asked, approaching with 2 glasses of champagne. "Yes." "She looks unhappy." "That's her choice, son." A week later, I received a letter. A regular paper letter, not an email. Martha's handwriting. "Dear Mrs. Foster, I am writing to you with sincere remorse. These 3 months have given me time to think and realize what a terrible person I have been. I humiliated you at the most difficult moment of your life. I tried to use Mark. I stole other people's ideas and thought it was normal. My parents disowned me after that scandal. They said I had disgraced the family. I now live in a small apartment in Queens and work as a saleswoman in a clothing store. Ironic, isn't it? I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted to say that you were right about everything, and Mark deserves someone much better than me. Your collection is beautiful. I saw the photos in the magazines. That black dress is now in all the publications, a symbol of elegance and strength. With respect and remorse, Martha Wallace. I sat by the fireplace in my new house holding the letter. Outside the window, the first snow of winter was falling. On the wall hung a portrait of Ethan, the same one with his favorite book. "What do you think?" I asked the portrait. "Should I burn it?" The wind outside the window seemed to answer, howling in the chimney. I smiled and threw the letter into the fire. The paper burst into flames, turning to ash in seconds. The phone rang. It was Mark. "Mom, I have news. Remember Sophie, the translator from the French office? We're dating." "That's wonderful, son." "She wants to meet you, but she warns you. She's a fan of M. Rowland from college." I laughed. "Bring her over on the weekend. I'll make dinner." "Nothing fancy, Mom. Sophie comes from a simple family, like us." "Like us," I repeated, looking at the flames in the fireplace. "Yes, we are a simple family who wears second-hand clothes by choice, lives modestly, even though we have millions, creates dresses for 80,000, and makes homemade pasta according to Grandma's recipe. We are a family that knows the value of money and human relationships, and who will never allow themselves to be humiliated again." I got up and went to the window. The garden was covered with snow. The lake was frozen. In the spring, I will plant roses here. Ethan loved roses, and maybe I'll create a new collection, not as M. Rowland, the mysterious genius, but as Emmy Carlson Foster, the woman who finally found herself,